Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 1 of Smile More's UFC 319 recap. Now, UFC 319 was fought in United Center, which is the same stadium that the NBA's one and only Chicago Bulls play. Now, let's not dilly-dally, let's get right into this. Starting off with the prelims, the first fight of the night, Alibi Idris versus Joseph Morales. Now, coming into the fight, Alibi was the heavy favorite, but that doesn't matter once the octagon doors close. So let's start with the recap of the first round. Now, the first round was a scrap. Joseph Morales won by a few significant strikes and strong position-based wrestling with a close submission at the end. Now, the second round was much of the same story. Arguably, Joseph was landing more significant strikes and beating Alibi Idris up worse on the feet until Alibi actually was able to drop him with some body punches that hurt him and was able to drop him with a nice cross to the face. Very technical. And after they were on the floor, Alibi was on the bottom. You could tell he was still injured from the body shots, but he was still able to get up into Joseph Morales' guard, where there Joseph Morales moved into a triangle and finished the fight from there. Great win for Morales, and both of these fighters are young enough to to have exciting careers in the future and have prelim fights and get into bigger, maybe main card fights from there. Excited to see the future of these guys. Now let's get into the next fight, Karine Silva versus Dione Barbosa. Silva was thought to be the favorite coming into this fight, and she ended up winning. But let's go over how exactly she won. Round 1 was close until Dione Barbosa took Silva down. Then she got off 2 submission attempts and looked scary on the ground, showing shades of Hamzat Chimaev. Now, with the second round, it was razor close. Silva had better positioning on the ground, and I think the elbows she landed on the triangle gave her that round. In the third round, Silva had the better exchanges, and when the fight hit the ground, she almost got a gilly, and had some good elbows on the ground. And even when Silva was on the bottom, she landed some good hammer fists, which I think was enough to give her that round, and was enough for the judges to make a 29-28 decision Silva. Some thought it was a robbery that Dione Barbosa should have won, but I don't think so. It was a really good second and third round from Silva. She bounced back nicely from that first round. I do think both of these fighters have great futures, especially this win stopping Silva's 2-fight losing skid. Now let's get into the next fight of the night, Edson Barbosa versus Drakkar Klose. Edson Barbosa is a UFC vet. He's been there, he's done this, and he's had a lot of exciting fights in the past. Drakkar Klose is a UFC contender. He's new to the UFC, but he's not new to fighting. Let's see how this fight turned out. Barbosa won round 1 by control time and significant strikes. Joe Rogan seemed to disagree. Round 2, at first, Klose was getting the better of the clashes and landed a few stunners, but Barbosa got close into a dogfight and ended up landing a few stunners of his own, and got some control time. At the end of the round, Barbosa was able to land a few good knees, and was able to, he did enough to, was enough to win the round. Round 3, Drakkar Klose got a lot of right hands in on Barbosa and ended up winning the third round. Edson Barbosa really looked tired in that third round, showing his age. He's 38. He's coming towards the end of his career, and we saw that this fight. Though at the end of the fight, they gave it to Klose, a 29-28. Absolute robbery, in my opinion. Nothing against Klose, seems like a great guy, but he got beat by a tired, older, and washed Edson Barbosa. It's tough to see. And now we got the main prelims. First one is Chase Hooper versus Alexander Hernandez. Now, Chase Hooper comes in as the favorite for this fight, coming in on a 5-fight win streak. But that doesn't matter once the octagon door closed, because Alexander Hernandez got the job done in the first round. Alexander Hernandez was landing the better strikes, more significant strikes throughout that first round. This is a massive hype train derailment for Chase Hooper. That's right, Chase Hooper hype train is derailed. Now let's move on to the next fight, Jessica Andrade versus Lupi Godinez. Lupi came in as the favorite for this fight. Now in the first round, off the bat, Andrade started to pressure, but Lupi was able to outland her early. Lupi Rupi kept out striking her for the whole first round until the last minute where Andrade was able to get a takedown. Picking up the ground and pound. Then Andrade gets to the fence and back up. They trade a little bit on the feet, but Rupi really stands out by using the clinch to land some knees and some good punches. Rupi gets Andrade to the fence and gets some control time from there, giving her the second round. Now the third round started. Andrade outstrikes Rupi. Round 3, she gets a leak from Lupi's face. 29-28, Rupi wins. Rupi Gonzalez keeps climbing the ranks. Now let's start with the next fight on the card, Gerald Meerschaert versus Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Mikhail Oleksiejczuk is the favorite for this fight. Now let's start by recapping round 1. Round 1, Gerald Meerschaert was landing some nice leg kicks, and Mikhail was swinging for the fences the whole round until 2 minutes 30 seconds left in the round, where Mikhail Oleksiejczuk knocks Gerald Meerschaert down. Didn't follow him to the ground though, so the ref let Gerald Meerschaert up and then restarted the fight. Then up until 2 minutes left, Mikhail hits Gerald Meerschaert again, knocking him down, this time following Gerald Meerschaert to the ground and pound, which finished the fight. Mikhail Oleksiejczuk looked great in that fight. He seemed to have a good time in this fight, and also his arm fully healed from that injury against Kevin Holland. Now in the post-fight press conference, Mikhail Oleksiejczuk called out Martin Vettori. I would like that. That's a good fight. Now for the next fight on the card. Bisanger Susurkayev versus Eric Nolan. Now, Bisanger Susurkayev comes out as the favorite for this fight. Well, let's see how that worked once the octagon doors closed. Start with a recap of round 1. Eric Nolan dominated the striking for most of the round, landed some devastating strikes, even wobbling Susurkayev at some points. Once the fight got to the ground with 1 minute left in the round, Susurkayev dominated the ground, and that ended the round from there. Round 2 started, and at the very beginning, Eric Nolan seemed to be winning a few exchanges until Susurkayev landed a devastating leg kick on Nolan, which dropped Nolan to the ground, where Susurkayev started the ground and pound, showing shades of Khabib, then getting Eric Nolan into a rear naked choke, which was locked up and ended the fight. Susurkayev had the post-fight press conference showing amazing energy and wanting to fight soon. After this fight, I think Bisanger Susurkayev has a great future in the UFC. I'd like to see his hectic wrestling style once again in the future. Tim Elliott versus Kai Asakura is the next fight, the first fight of the main card. This is a flyweight fight. Asakura comes in as the heavy favorite. Round 1 starts. Kai Asakura comes in after the loss from Alejandro Pantoja. He said he worked on his grappling and striking intensity. Let's see if that was enough. Now the first round starts, and Kai Asakura throws some good strikes, wobbling Tim Elliott a little bit, winning most of the first round until the last minute, where Tim Elliott takes Kai Asakura down, holds him there for 1 minute, not really doing much with it. Round 2 starts. Now Kai Asakura seemed to be a little bit more hesitant about throwing now. He's a little bit more worried about the takedown, trying to stay further away from Tim Elliott. Now, Tim Elliott did not do this. He started throwing some hard strikes, landing a lot on Kai Asakura, really turning the tides of the fight to his way. Now throughout the second round, Asakura tried blitzing. Now this didn't work out well for him. 2 minutes left in the round. Kai Asakura gets taken down. Then from there, Tim Elliott secures the gilly. Win for Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott is a 38-year-old UFC fighter. He is close to the end of his career. This fight really just prolongs his career for a couple more fights. Now news just came out a couple hours ago that Kai Asakura is moving back to Rizin. Kai Asakura is not going to stay in the UFC. Now as far as Rizin goes, Rizin does not have the same pedigree of fighters as UFC. So I'm not surprised after 2 losses in a row at the UFC and no wins in the UFC that Kayatsukura will be moving back to Risen. Next fight, Jared Cannonier versus Michael Venom Page for a middleweight bout. MVP comes in as the favorite for this fight. Now let's get a short recap of round 1. Jared Cannonier came out aggressive. He ended up getting pieced up. MVP is a great striker, one of the best, if not the best, in the UFC. Though Jared Cannonier did come out aggressive, he wasn't able to land much, mainly because of the elusivity of MVP. The only bright spot in the round for Jared Cannonier was when he was able to clinch MVP up in the fence and have relative control, though not landing anything significant. Now let's talk about round 2. Another dominant round for MVP, where he was getting a second knockdown because MVP got a knockdown in the first round, and was landing a lot on the feet. At the end of the round, Jared Cannonier got a takedown. This seemed to gas MVP out a little bit. MVP showed his age a little bit. He's 38 years old. You could see that in this fight at some points. Him just being a little bit tired, a little bit not trying to get hit. You could see him not wanting to get hit in this fight. Now round 3 starts. MVP comes out swinging aggressively. He did look gassed. Then MVP slips up and falls on the ground, where Jared Cannonier took full advantage, got into half guard, and knew this was a big chance for Jared Cannonier. Now when they got to the ground, Jared Cannonier tried to land some ground and pound. Though, even on the floor, MVP was elusive. Jared Cannonier tried to lock in a Von Fluke choke, didn't work. Transitioned to a Kimura, still didn't work. Transitioned to a head and arm choke, still didn't work. MVP got out. 29-28 MVP. Michael Venom Page moves up the ranks. Let's see how well he does with somebody in title contention. Now for Jared Cannonier, he had a long career. He had his high points, he had his low points, but I think at this point there is no point in further brain damage with no title shot in sight. Jared Cannonier should retire. Now for the next fight on the card, Geoff Neal versus Carlos Prates. Prates comes into this fight as a favorite even after his loss to Ian Machado Gary. Quick recap of round 1. Just like in every Carlos Prates fight, he starts off slow, hesitant, trying to see what kind of rhythm Geoff Neal puts off in the striking. Now, the same cannot be said for Geoff Neal. He came out with solid boxing fundamentals and leg kicks. But throughout the round, Carlos Prates turned up the intensity until 1 minute left, where Carlos Prates landed a spinning heel kick. Really crazy to see. Really great striking in this match. But after that spinning heel kick, Carlos Prates started to open up, land even more, and finish it from there. Carlos Prates finished the fight on Geoff Neal with 2 seconds left in the round with a spinning elbow. Nobody saw that coming, but everyone knew Geoff Neal was starting to get pieced up. Now Carlos Prates has some interesting fights lined up. He could either go Leon Edwards or Michael Venom Page. And as for Geoff Neal, he'll still be okay. He'll have some fights in the future, but I don't think he's going to be fighting on the main card anymore. Now let's look at the co-main event for the night. That is right, the co-main event of the night, ladies and gentlemen, Lerone Murphy versus Aaron Pico. This is a featherweight bout. Aaron Pico comes in as the favorite, even in his UFC debut from Bellator. Round 1, Pico comes out aggressive with great boxing, then clinches against the fence with Lerone Murphy. Pico gets a takedown and starts with the ground and pound. Then Lerone Murphy gets back up. Pico keeps with the pressure and gets another takedown, where he gives more ground and pound. But then Lerone Murphy gets back up once more and is able to land the knee before they clinch up against the fence. Aaron Pico and Lerone Murphy start to exchange in the clinch. Then Aaron Pico separates and starts to strike with boxing technique on the feet. With 1 minute 40 seconds left, Lerone Murphy lands a prayer of a strike with a spinning elbow after getting dominated the whole first round by UFC debutee. After the fight, he called out UFC featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski to a fight. Personally, I don't think he deserves that title shot after getting dominated by UFC DBT and barely landing a knockout strike to save him. He needs to fight someone top 5, like Yair Rodriguez or Movsar Evloev next. That's where I see this going, but the UFC might give him a title shot. Who knows? As for Aaron Pico, I think he could be a pretty good UFC fighter. He just needs to be more cautious in his next fight so he doesn't run into any last resort spinning back fists out of desperation. Now for the main event of the night, Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis. Now Dricus is the champion, but Khamzat is coming in as the favorite after a first round sub against Bobby Knuckles. Now let's start with a recap of round 1. Khamzat comes out as the favorite, getting a takedown and getting into side control. Then he moves into a crucifix position. After that, he gets the ground and pound going. Du Plessis tries to buck up, and though it didn't work, Khamzat ends up holding Dricus in side control for the rest of the round. Round 2 starts. Dricus immediately gets taken down by Khamzat, is held there until Khamzat gets his back, where Khamzat delivers knees to the gut and tries a rear naked choke, though Dricus defends well. Yet Khamzat still has back and is landing ground and pound for the rest of the round. Round 3 starts. Khamzat gets a takedown and Dricus keeps attempting to get up, yet Khamzat keeps throwing Dricus down and keeps Dricus in side control. Then Khamzat moves back to the crucifix position and lands ground and pound with some elbows. Then he slides to mount, and as Dricus moves, Khamzat gets back control once again. That's it for round 3. Round 4 starts. Dricus defends the first takedown, but Khamzat takes him down on the second attempt and gets to his back pretty much instantly. Dricus gets up and is thrown back down. Khamzat still at his back. Then it happens once more as the ground and pound starts to ramp up. Then Khamzat pulls Dricus back into the crucifix position, and Dricus begins to grab the fence with his toes with 1 minute left in the 4th round. The ref stands them up. To no avail, Khamzat gets a takedown pretty much seconds after the fight is restarted. At the end of the round, Khamzat goes for one more rear naked choke. Yet Dricus is able to defend the choke. Then starts round 5 after a good back and forth where they both landed a few strikes. Khamzat takes Dricus back to the mat. Khamzat brings it back to the crucifix position and goes to Dricus's back as Dricus moves into the turtle position. Dricus for once reverses position and gets Khamzat's head in the gilly for about 2 seconds. Then Khamzat pulls his head out and turns into Dricus's guard. Then starts the ground and pound once more. They get stood back up with a minute to go. Khamzat goes for a takedown. Dricus sprawls and gets into a clinch. Then Khamzat tries to take down Dricus once more. Dricus ends up on top, which then Khamzat rolls into a turtle position and ends up on his back with 30 more seconds to go. Then Dricus goes for a rear naked choke, but it doesn't work on Khamzat. With 2 seconds left, Khamzat dips his shoulder and moves into Dricus du Plessis' guard, and the fight ends there. This fight was long and arduous for both fighters, but it was a clear win for Khamzat. The fight ended up being 50-44, and there is a new UFC middleweight champion, Khamzat Boris Chimaev. Now Khamzat wants to fight in the Abu Dhabi card. Next fight against anyone and everyone. But a lot of people think RDR is next, so that'll be pretty exciting. There's a few things Dricus can do now. He could either rematch Sean Strickland for a 3rd time, rematch Izzy for the 2nd time, or fight one of these contenders. He has plenty of options from there. But that's Dricus' decision. He'll probably end up fighting around December or January, as he didn't get too much damage this fight. Thank you all for tuning in to the UFC 319 Smile More recap. It was nice having you on the show today. Thank you for your time, and have a wonderful day. Don't forget to